Hey, thanks so much for joining me for another Doujin review from White Album 2. Now today we're going to be looking at a short novel from White Album 2 focused on Setsuna and Haruki's relationship. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now this doujinshi is called Rainy Days and Mondays. So basically the days that people usually dislike the most. Now the cover art is beautiful. Despite it being a rainy day and a Monday, Setsuna is looking beautiful. She's looking happy. She's holding her umbrella in a way that definitely doesn't protect her from the rain, but disregarding that, yeah, a very beautiful picture. You can see a little Japanese train in the background there passing by, and then the flowers, which I love. They could grow in the bunches with different colors. So this is another short story written by Einshalt. Let's take a look. Rainy Days and Mondays, focused on Ogiso Setsuna by Einshalt. So for this one, it's going to be taking place post-coda, the Setsuna route. It will contain spoilers, so do be aware. Now, this is broken up into a few different chapters. So the first chapter is Rainy Days and Mondays. Then the next chapter is called George Harrison. And George Harrison is just a name of a song. It's not specifically a character from White Album, so don't feel like you're missing out on something. And then the afterword, and then the thanks there. So, diving into the text here. Rainy Days and Mondays. So, the premise of this story, like most Einshalt stories, it is a short story. It's relatively lighthearted, pretty easy to read. This is a Monday, go figure. On a Monday, it's a rainy day, and Setsuna and Haruki decide to go to a museum for a date. Now, what's neat about this little museum date, and the author notes it later on in the afterword, but I'll tell you now, the author actually went to this museum for some inspiration and said it was very, very crowded with tourists, and it was kind of difficult to get around in. But just a basic, typical museum date. I think what gets me about this story, what's very cute, is that Haruki mentions specifically that he's been to museums before, and it's been kind of nothing special to him, but being there with Setsuna, like something's different in a good way. You get to experience the same thing, but when you do it with someone you love, it's a new thing altogether. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's the main takeaway of this cute story of them just like walking around and enjoying the museum together. Is really just, it doesn't matter if you've done it a million times. You know, how many times have we been to the beach? But if you go to the beach with a loved one, you know, you can have a completely new and fun experience with them. I mean, even with friends too, but of course we're talking about Haruki and Setsuna, so we're gonna be talking about lovers. But yeah, overall, just a very, very cute date story of them being grown up, being in the working world, but then taking time out of their day just to go on a nice date. So I love that. And then in the case of George Harrison here, so this is a very short story, but the author does note, and he notes this in the afterword, but we'll explain now while we're here. This chapter was actually inspired by a tapestry of Setsuna that was distributed at a comic market over 10 years ago to now. But it's Setsuna wearing a wedding dress. And nowadays that tapestry is going for about $300 or more, depending on where you're looking. So it's escalated in value quite a bit. But this tapestry is Setsuna in her wedding dress, just looking as happy as a peach. And this was so inspiring to the author, to Einshalt, that he wrote just a little kind of short story about it. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's wonderful. I think wedding dresses, not only, of course, it signifies getting married, but just being so, so happy in that instance that clothing kind of represents something beautiful, such a big change in someone's life. And the author just briefly touches on that for Setsuna. So it's beautiful. It makes me very happy. And then we move on to the afterword. So I already explained most of the afterword in explaining the stories, but yep, he just breaks it down into the two different stories, the reasonings for doing so, some of the inspirations here. And then we move on to the thank you specifically for people who helped out. So the cover art was made by Blue Garden. Always, Einshalt welcomes opinions or thoughts on the Twitter, on the website, and you can find that information here. So as always, Einshalt names the chapters after songs. So Rainy Days and Mondays is from the Carpenters, and George Harrison is from George Harrison. And I'll admit, the first time I read this book, I did not know the song. And I was like, why is this titled George Harrison? I was very confused. So that's why. So anyway, this book was written in 2017. So it's one of the more recent White Album 2 novels written by Einshalt. You can find them on the website or through Twitter, and do throw them an opinion. If you do read this novel, they would very much appreciate it. And then again, the circle title is White Hairband. So that's all for Rainy Days and Mondays. Thank you so much for joining me on this doujinshi review. I look forward to doing more White Album 2 doujinshi reviews in the future. So until then, I hope you take care. See you!